Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Update 1.3 has finally dropped and I thought what better way to jump into this than compare the brand new LAV-25 vehicle to the BTR on the Russian side's vehicle, what we've already seen and had for a while. So I'm going to be comparing these two down to pretty much all the main things. I'm not going to go too in depth of it, but it was some interesting tests and you'll see the pros and cons and all the different, things and what vehicle is really best to use in what kind of situation. So let's just get down straight to the basics. When comparing these two vehicles, when it comes to the LAV-25, you've got a passenger slot of 7 people that you can fit compared to 8 people when it comes to the BTR itself. Now, if I'm going to be honest and really taking this seriously, when it comes to the actual seats and passengers for both of these vehicles, there is only two that really matters, and that is the driver and the gunner seat. Now, the first thing you're going to notice with the LAV-25, if you play first-person servers, this thing is almost not impossible to drive, but you cannot see in first person while you're inside the vehicle. The only way to actually see is by opening the hatch above you and peeking your head out. And even then, that leaves you very exposed and not kind of really my favorite thing when it comes to, driving vehicles, not being too exposed, especially in an armored vehicle like this. Now, when it comes to the BTR itself, I'm sure as many people would be aware, the two front hatches do open up. So when you are in first person, you are able to actually see where you are driving and where you are going. This already gives the BTR a massive leg up against the LAV itself when it does come to the driving aspect. Now, of course, if you don't play first person only servers like myself, I play heavily first person only. It's not really going to matter if you play where you can play third person. But first person only, this has given you a huge leg up, definitely. Now, when comparing both the gunner seats to both vehicles, the first thing that you will probably most definitely notice is the range. Now, the BTR, as you can see on the gun now itself, the scope's range does not go very far. Compare that with the LAV-25, its range is significantly more, giving it a much more upper hand, especially at long range distances. Now, when actually comparing the punch to both these vehicles' weapon systems, the BTR has a smaller machine gun with kind of a medium-sized machine gun. They still both pack quite a bit of punch and can do damage to vehicles quite easily. Now moving on to the LAV, again kind of a similar situation, a lighter machine gun, but for the main gun it hits like a cannon and it sounds like one too. Now actually moving on to how much damage these things can take. Now we'll start with the LAV. If you come across this thing and you've got an RPG on your back, you can take this thing out pretty easily. I'm not going to lie, this thing really surprised me when it comes to damage taken. It is quite significantly weak. The one thing I noticed is no matter where you hit it around the outside, if it's not on the top half where you can see the actual cannon and the weapons, but the main body around it and near the wheels, if you hit that with an RPG anywhere, it's going to set that on fire the very first shot. Now, comparing that, if you do shoot the top half, it does take a lot more RPG rounds, as you'll see. So around 5 RPG shots to the upper half where the main gun is. But look, if you come across this thing and you hit the main body with the RPG, you're most likely going to set it on fire in the very first shot. Now, I know this was point blank range as well. I did not test it at kind of longer distances. It might be weaker when hitting it at a longer distance, but that might be for another video. Now moving along to the BTR. Now, this was another interesting one that I hadn't really tested before. Now, with the BTR, the engine is located towards the rear, and the first thing that I noticed instantly is if you're shooting that back half of the BTR's body, similar like the LAV, you are going to set it in fire most likely within one shot at kind of point blank range. But if you do shoot the actual more in front or in front of the BTR itself, it's actually going to take about 2 shots before you set it on fire. So, when you compare these two, it's a lot more, the BTR, it's just that little bit more tankier when it, taking shots, especially from large explosions like rocket launchers. So now it's time to look at, both the vehicles at their own, what type of situation is best to use what. Now, look, the one thing that you need to understand and get clear from the get-go is these two vehicles, they are not tanks. They are not built to take damage. They are specifically just built, I would say, for reconnaissance and transporting troops while having a little bit of that extra firepower on top. There's no way that you should be using these vehicles rolling into main objectives on a main road where enemies could see you, multiple enemies. The minute they have a launcher, even just a couple people, they are taking you out instantly. So the LAV itself, this thing is definitely built for the longer range. Sitting up on a hill, overlooking a main road, overlooking a main objective or town, kind of preventing the enemy from getting out. This could definitely be used like that. And look, it could be extremely effective, and I'm definitely excited to give it a go in some conflict online. But the LAV, 110%, you should be using this at a much further distance, as the scope, you can see a hell of a lot more compared to the BTR. Now, when it comes to the BTR itself as well, look, this could definitely be used in a very similar way on a hill overlooking. The scope and the range on it obviously isn't as good, but with it being able to take a little bit more tankier shots, obviously with two, rocket launcher shots, towards the front half of it, you can use this a lot more kind of tankier and I'd say up close and personal compared to the LAV. So if you need to get close, closer to roads, closer to main towns, more kind of close range engagements, it's kind of got the firepower built for that, and it's definitely, that little bit tankier side, so it can handle it. If someone does manage to get a rocket on you, you can, kind of re-strategize, move away, back off a little bit, and you're not going to be set on fire instantly compared to the LAV. So all in all, look, both vehicles, they definitely have both their pros and cons, but the most thing I'm happy about is the American side finally has something that can go face-to-face with the BTR. They've got their own bit of chunk of armor, and look, this would be great to see them go head-to-head, especially in massive conflict matches, how they both get used, and look, hopefully they are used smartly as well. As I said, these things aren't tanks, they aren't built to take damage, but they can be very versatile if used in the right way. Now look, thank you guys so much for watching the video. I can't appreciate it enough. I'm sorry for the lack of content. It's been extremely hard. I say it all the time with things to come up with. Once mods drop, I really hope it's not too soon. Look, I'll definitely have some more things in mind. But I'll look towards, getting some footage with this new LAV and possibly the BTR as well, seeing what we can do. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.